In their cozy home, Mr. and Mrs. Jacob treated Morife and Kelani not as adopted children, but as their own. They hugged them, loved them, and made them feel safe. "You are part of our family now," Mrs. Jacob said with a warm smile. Morife and Kelani smiled back, feeling the love. Mr. and Mrs. Jacob wanted the best for the twins. They enrolled them in the best school in town. The school was big and beautiful. Morife and Kelani were excited and a little nervous. "Don't worry," Mr. Jacob said. "You'll make lots of friends here." At school, Morife and Kelani met many new friends. They played games, learned new things, and had fun. The teachers were nice and helped them with their studies. For the first time since their parents' death, the twins felt happy and deeply loved. Every day after school, Morife and Kelani would run home, eager to tell Mr. and Mrs. Jacob about their day. "Guess what we learned today?" Morife would say. Kelani would add, "We made new friends and played lots of games." Mr. and Mrs. Jacob loved hearing about the twins' day. They would listen with big smiles and say, "We are so proud of you." The twins loved their new home. They had their own cozy room with soft beds and colorful blankets. There were toys and books everywhere. "This is the best home ever," Kelani said one night as he snuggled into his bed. "Yes, it is," Morife agreed, feeling safe and loved. In the evenings, the family would sit together and read stories or play games. Mrs. Jacob would make delicious dinners, and they would eat together, laughing and talking. "This feels like a real family," Morife thought happily. As the days turned into weeks, Morife and Kelani became more and more settled in their new home. They felt like they belonged. They felt deeply loved and cared for by Mr. and Mrs. Jacob. Life was good for Morife and Kelani. They had a new family, a new home, and new friends. They were happy, and for the first time in a long time, they felt that everything was going to be all right. And so, the twins settled into their new beginning with joy and love, ready for whatever adventures lay ahead. Some years passed, and Morife and Kelani turned 17. They had grown into kind and strong young adults, loved deeply by Mr. and Mrs. Jacob. The family was happy, but there was something Mr. and Mrs. Jacob had always wished for, a child of their own. One day, Mrs. Jacob felt something different. She went to the doctor and found out she was pregnant. "I'm going to have a baby," she exclaimed with joy. Mr. Jacob was thrilled. "This is wonderful news," he said, hugging her tightly. They believed that the twins had brought them this special blessing. Morife and Kelani were excited too. "We're going to have a little brother or sister," Morife said, smiling. Kelani added, "We'll help take care of the baby." The family was filled with happiness. They started planning for the new arrival. Mr. Jacob painted the baby's room and Mrs. Jacob bought tiny clothes and toys. The twins helped too, making sure everything was perfect. But then, 2 months into the pregnancy, something went wrong. One morning, Mrs. Jacob woke up with a sharp pain in her stomach. She stood up and felt something was wrong. Mr. Jacob noticed blood stains and rushed to her side. "What's happening?" he asked, worry filling his eyes. Mrs. Jacob began to cry. I think the baby is gone," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. They rushed to the hospital, but it was too late. Mrs. Jacob had a miscarriage. The baby they had hoped and prayed for was no more. The joy that had filled their home turned to deep sorrow. Mrs. Jacob cried and cried, feeling the loss deeply. "Why did this happen?" she sobbed. Mr. Jacob held her close, his own heart breaking. "I don't know, but we must stay strong," he said, trying to comfort her. Morife and Kelani were heartbroken too. They had been so excited to welcome a new sibling. "We're so sorry, Mama," Kelani said, hugging Mrs. Jacob tightly. "We will get through this together," Morife added, trying to be brave. The family consoled each other, holding on to hope for the future. They believed that maybe, someday, they would have another chance. They didn't give up, even though their hearts were heavy with sorrow. Time passed, and the sadness began to lift a little. The twins continued to bring joy to the household with their love and kindness. They never forgot the baby they had lost, but they kept hoping for brighter days ahead. Through their tears, they stayed united as a family, believing that love would see them through this difficult time. They were sad, but they were also hopeful, knowing that they had each other to lean on. A few months passed, and Mrs. Jacob felt a familiar flutter of hope. She went to the doctor and found out she was pregnant again. "I'm pregnant," she told Mr. Jacob with a smile, her eyes sparkling with hope. Mr. Jacob hugged her tightly. "This time will be different. I can feel it," he said, his heart full of joy. They shared the news with Morife and Kelani, who were equally excited. "We'll finally have a baby sibling," Kelani said, grinning from ear to ear. The happiness returned to their home. They prayed and hoped every day, believing this pregnancy would bring them the joy they longed for. Mrs. Jacob took great care of herself, eating healthy and resting as much as she could. But as the months went by, fear crept in. Mrs. Jacob reached 3 months when she started feeling sharp pains again. "Oh no, not again," she whispered, tears forming in her eyes. Mr. Jacob rushed her to the hospital, but once more, it was too late. She had another miscarriage. The family's hearts broke again. The baby they had hoped for was gone. "Why does this keep happening?" Mrs. Jacob cried, feeling a deep sadness. Mr. Jacob held her, his own eyes wet with tears. "I don't know, but we must keep our faith," he said, trying to be strong. This heartbreaking pattern continued. Mrs. Jacob got pregnant again and again, but each time, after a few months, she lost the baby. 10 times they faced this sorrow, each loss plunging the family deeper into despair. The twins, Morife and Kelani, were there to support their parents through every heartbreak. "We're here for you, Mama and Papa," Morife would say, holding her mother's hand. "We'll get through this together," Kelani added, comforting his father. But the constant cycle of hope and loss wore on the family. They were filled with questions and sadness. "What are we doing wrong?" Mrs. Jacob wondered aloud, her voice filled with pain. "Why can't we have a baby?" Despite the despair, they tried to hold on to hope. They kept believing that one day they would have the child they dreamed of. The twins continued to bring light to their home, even in the darkest times. They stayed united, knowing that their love for each other was the only thing keeping them strong. The family's journey was filled with ups and downs, joy and heartbreak. But through it all, they held on to each other, never giving up hope, even when the future seemed uncertain and filled with despair. After so many heartbreaks, Mrs. Jacob was desperate for answers. She decided to visit another hospital, hoping to find a solution. Maybe there's something the doctors missed, she thought. She took Morife and Kelani with her, as Mr. Jacob was at work. The new hospital was far away, and the journey was long. When they arrived, Mrs. Jacob was filled with hope. She requested to see a doctor and was led to his office. The doctor, an elderly man with kind eyes, welcomed them. "How can I help you today?" he asked. Mrs. Jacob explained her situation, tears in her eyes. "I've had 10 miscarriages. I don't know why this keeps happening," she said. The doctor listened carefully, his face serious. The doctor, who had spiritual insight, noticed something strange. He sensed an aura of bad luck around the twins. He turned to Mrs. Jacob and said gently, "I need to speak with you alone. Please ask the children to wait outside." Mrs. Jacob was surprised. "But why?" she asked, her voice filled with concern. "They are my children." The doctor insisted. "Please, it's important. They should wait outside, not even in the reception, but outside the hospital entirely." Mrs. Jacob was angry and confused. "How can you treat them like this? They are your patients too," she said, her voice rising. The doctor tried to explain. "There is something I need to tell you, but it's better if they wait outside." Mrs. Jacob's anger took over. "I won't have my children treated this way," she said, standing up. "We're leaving." She took Morife and Kelani by the hand and left the hospital without hearing the doctor's explanation. As they walked back to the car, Morife asked, "Mama, why did we leave?" Mrs. Jacob shook her head, still angry. "The doctor was being unfair. He wouldn't explain why he wanted you to leave the room," she said. When they got home, Mrs. Jacob told Mr. Jacob what had happened. He felt sad and worried. "There must be a reason the doctor acted that way," he said thoughtfully. "Did he say anything to you?" Mrs. Jacob shook her head. "I didn't let him speak. I was too upset," she admitted. The day after the upsetting visit to the hospital, Mr. Jacob couldn't shake off the feeling that there was something more to the doctor's strange behavior. Determined to find answers, he decided to visit the doctor alone. Arriving at the hospital, Mr. Jacob introduced himself to the receptionist. "I'm Mr. Jacob. I need to speak with the doctor who saw my wife yesterday. I'm here to find out what happened," he said. The receptionist nodded and led him to the doctor's office. The doctor greeted Mr. Jacob with a serious expression. "I'm glad you came," he said. "There's something important you need to know." Mr. Jacob sat down, his heart heavy with anticipation. "Please, tell me what's going on," he said. The doctor took a deep breath and began to explain. "There's nothing physically wrong with your wife. She is healthy and capable of carrying a pregnancy to term. However, I sensed a spiritual issue surrounding your twins." Mr. Jacob frowned, trying to understand. "What do you mean by a spiritual issue?" he asked. The doctor continued. "Your twins, Morife and Kelani, carry a curse of bad luck. This curse affects anyone who is close to them. It's likely the reason behind your wife's repeated miscarriages." Mr. Jacob's heart sank. "Are you saying my children are cursed?" he asked, disbelief in his voice. The doctor nodded. "Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. I know it's hard to believe, but I have seen such things before. The best way to protect your next pregnancy is to send the twins away during that time." Mr. Jacob was skeptical, but desperate for a solution. "How can I do that? My wife loves them so much. She'll never agree to send them away," he said. The doctor sighed. "I understand. It's a difficult decision, but it's the only way to break the cycle of bad luck affecting your family." Leaving the hospital, Mr. Jacob felt a heavy burden on his shoulders. He didn't want to believe the doctor's words, but the thought of losing another baby was too much to bear. He decided to keep this information to himself for now, unsure of how to tell his wife. That evening, as they sat down for dinner, Mrs. Jacob noticed her husband's troubled expression. "Is everything all right?" she asked gently. Mr. Jacob forced a smile. "Yes, everything's fine," he replied, trying to hide his worry. But deep down, he was torn between protecting his unborn child and his love for Morife and Kelani. Days turned into weeks, and Mr. Jacob kept pondering the doctor's words. He watched his wife interact with the twins, seeing the love and joy they shared. He couldn't imagine sending them away, but the fear of another miscarriage haunted him. Finally, he made a difficult decision. He would wait until Mrs. Jacob got pregnant again and then find a way to send the twins to a boarding school, hoping that temporary separation would protect his wife and their unborn child. The weight of the hidden truth hung heavy in the air as Mr. Jacob prepared to take a step he never thought he would have to take. He prayed silently, hoping for a miracle that would keep his family together and safe. A few months later, Mrs. Jacob had wonderful news. She was pregnant again. Mr. Jacob was thrilled, but also deeply worried about the curse the doctor had mentioned. He knew he had to act to protect this new chance at happiness. One evening, after dinner, Mr. Jacob sat down with his wife. "I have an idea that might help you rest and take care of the baby," he began gently. Mrs. Jacob looked at him curiously. "What is it?" she asked. "I've been thinking," Mr. Jacob said, choosing his words carefully. "Maybe we should send Morife and Kelani to a boarding school for a while. It would give you some peace and quiet to focus on your pregnancy." Mrs. Jacob was surprised. "But they're our children. I don't want them to feel like we're sending them away," she said, her eyes filling with concern. Mr. Jacob took her hand. "I know, but it's just for a little while. They'll have a chance to experience new things and make new friends, and you'll have a chance to rest and take care of yourself." Mrs. Jacob thought for a moment. She loved the twins dearly and didn't want to be apart from them. But she also desperately wanted this pregnancy to be successful. "If you think it will help, then we'll do it," she said finally, though her heart felt heavy. The next week, they prepared the twins for boarding school. Morife and Kelani were excited, but also a little sad to be leaving home. "Why do we have to go?" Kelani asked one evening. Mr. Jacob smiled warmly. "It's a new adventure for you. You'll make new friends and learn many new things. And it's just for a little while." Mrs. Jacob hugged them tightly. "We'll miss you so much. Be good and take care of each other," she said, trying to hold back her tears. On the day they left, the twins waved goodbye, feeling a mix of excitement and sadness. They didn't know the true reason behind their departure. They believed it was just a new chapter in their lives. At the boarding school, Morife and Kelani settled in quickly. They made friends and enjoyed their new surroundings. They missed their home, but thought of it as a temporary adventure. Back home, Mrs. Jacob focused on her pregnancy. She rested, ate healthy, and stayed positive. Mr. Jacob was by her side, supporting her every step of the way. He kept his worries to himself, hoping that the separation from the twins would protect their unborn child. Months passed, and Mrs. Jacob's pregnancy progressed well. She was healthier and happier than she had been in a long time. Mr. Jacob felt a sense of relief, believing that the doctor's advice had worked. With Morife and Kelani away at boarding school, Mrs. Jacob focused on her pregnancy. She rested, ate well, and stayed positive. Mr. Jacob was by her side, supporting her every step of the way. Their home was filled with anticipation and hope. Finally, the day came. Mrs. Jacob gave birth to a beautiful baby girl. The moment she held her daughter in her arms, tears of joy streamed down her face. "We have a baby girl," she whispered, overwhelmed with happiness. Mr. Jacob, standing by her side, smiled broadly. "She's perfect," he said, his heart full of love and relief. The family was overjoyed. For the first time, they felt complete. They named their daughter Ada, and every day was filled with the joy and laughter of a newborn. Mrs. Jacob recovered well and the house was filled with love and warmth. As the weeks passed, they celebrated every milestone. Ada's first smile, her first coo, and the way she held their fingers with her tiny hands brought immense happiness. "She's our little miracle," Mrs. Jacob often said, her eyes sparkling with love. However, as Ada grew, the time for Morife and Kelani's return drew closer. Mr. Jacob couldn't shake the worry that had been gnawing at him. He knew he had to address the issue of the twins and the potential bad luck they might bring. As the days went by, Mr. Jacob grew more anxious. He knew he couldn't keep the doctor's warning to himself any longer. One evening, after putting Ada to bed, he sat down with Mrs. Jacob in the living room. "Honey, there's something I need to tell you," he began, his voice heavy with concern. Mrs. Jacob looked at him, puzzled. "What is it?" Mr. Jacob took a deep breath. "When I went to see the doctor, he told me something disturbing. He said that Morife and Kelani carry a curse of bad luck. He believed it's the reason for all the miscarriages and that we should send them away to protect any future pregnancies." Mrs. Jacob stared at him in disbelief. "A curse? That's ridiculous. They're just children. I know it sounds crazy, but look at what happened when they were away. We finally had Ada without any complications," Mr. Jacob said, trying to make her understand. Mrs. Jacob shook her head, tears filling her eyes. "I can't believe this. They're our children. How can we just send them away?" Mr. Jacob held her hands. "I love them too, but we have to think about Ada. We can't risk anything happening to her. Maybe the doctor is right, and we need to be careful." For days, Mrs. Jacob struggled with the revelation. She watched Morife and Kelani play with their baby sister, their faces filled with love and joy. The thought of sending them away broke her heart, but she couldn't shake the fear that the doctor might be right. Finally, with a heavy heart, she agreed. "If it's for Ada's safety, then we'll do it," she said, tears streaming down her face. "But it hurts so much." Mr. Jacob hugged her tightly. "I know, it hurts me too, but we'll find a way to make sure they're safe and happy." The day came for them to take the twins back to the orphanage. Morife and Kelani were confused and sad. "Why do we have to go back?" Morife asked, her voice trembling. Mrs. Jacob knelt down and hugged them. "It's just for a while, my dears. We love you very much, and we'll visit you often," she said, trying to hold back her tears. As they arrived at the orphanage, their hearts were heavy with sorrow. The head of the orphanage, Mrs. Fowler, greeted them with a concerned look. "Why are you bringing them back?" she asked. Mr. Jacob explained the situation as best as he could, without going into too much detail. "We believe there's a curse, and we need to protect our family," he said. Mrs. Fowler sighed deeply. "I understand your concerns, but it's still heartbreaking. We'll take good care of them." But deep inside, she knew they'd still find another way to chase them away, because since they left, there hasn't been any sickness or issues at the orphanage. Morife and Kelani looked at their adopted parents, Mr. and Mrs. Jacob, with tears in their eyes. "We'll miss you," Kelani said, his voice cracking. "We'll miss you too," Mrs. Jacob said, hugging them tightly. "This isn't goodbye forever. We love you so much." As they were about drove away, leaving the twins behind, Mr. and Mrs. Jacob felt a deep sadness. They knew they had made a difficult decision, but it didn't make it any easier. Morife and Kelani, on the other hand, felt lost and abandoned. They didn't understand why they had to leave their new home and family, but they held on to the hope that someday things would be better. Just then, a familiar face appeared at the orphanage gate. It was Chief Abasi, their uncle, who had abandoned them at the orphanage some years back. The head of the orphanage, Mrs. Fowler, greeted him with curiosity. "What brings you here, Chief Abasi?" she asked. Chief Abasi looked troubled. "I've come to see Morife and Kelani. I have something important to tell them and you," he said. The twins were surprised to see their uncle. "Uncle Abasi," they exclaimed, running to hug him. Mr. and Mrs. Jacob stood confused, trying to make sense of the situation there at that moment. Chief Abasi hugged the twins back, tears in his eyes. "I'm so sorry for what I did," he began. "I abandoned you here years ago because I believed you brought bad luck. But now I've learned the truth." Mrs. Fowler listened intently as Chief Abasi explained. "Many years ago, your father went to the river goddess to ask for children. The goddess blessed him with twins, but gave him a condition. He must name both of you Osunbumi, which means gifted by the river goddess. Instead, he named you differently, breaking the oath. This brought the curse of bad luck upon you." Morife and Kelani were shocked. They had never known about the broken oath. "Is there a way to fix it?" Morife asked, her voice trembling. Chief Abasi nodded. "Yes, there is. We need to perform a ritual and rename you both Osunbumi. This will lift the curse and bring peace to your lives." Mrs. Fowler and Jacob's family agreed to help. They gathered everything needed for the ritual and performed it with great care. As the ritual concluded, Chief Abasi declared, "From this day forward, you are both Osunbumi. May the curse be lifted and may you live in peace." A warm, gentle breeze seemed to sweep through the room, and everyone felt a sense of relief and hope. The twins hugged each other tightly, feeling the weight of the curse lift from their shoulders. With the curse lifted, Chief Abasi looked at Mrs. Fowler. "I want to take them back to Mr. and Mrs. Jacob myself," he said. "They deserve to be with the people who love them." Mrs. Fowler agreed. "They will be happy to have them back," she said, smiling. Chief Abasi drove Morife and Kelani back to the Jacob household. Mr. and Mrs. Jacob were overjoyed to see them. "You're home!" Mrs. Jacob exclaimed, tears of happiness streaming down her face. Mr. Jacob hugged them tightly, his heart full of relief and joy. Chief Abasi explained everything to Mr. and Mrs. Jacob. "The curse is lifted. They are free from the bad luck," he said. Mr. and Mrs. Jacob decided to take the twins back into their home. The family, including little Ada, was finally complete. They lived happily together, free from the shadow of bad luck. The orphanage thrived with the good news, and Chief Abasi's business boomed once again. The town buzzed with happiness and prosperity. Morife and Kelani, now Osunbumi, felt a deep sense of belonging and love. They were grateful for their family and the second chance at happiness. The family's love and unity proved stronger than any curse, and they looked forward to a bright and joyful future together. And so, the family lived happily ever after, with love, peace, and prosperity surrounding them. I hope you enjoyed the tale. If so, please like the video, share it with your family and friends, comment on it, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell for more enchanting tales like this one. Goodbye.